I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Good morning,
Mr. Chair.
everybody.
Good morning, Mr. Chair.
Approval of board, county board minutes. Could I get a motion in a second?
So moved, Mr. Chair.
Motion made by Commissioner Jelinski, second by Commissioner Blaine. Discussions? All in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Motion carried. Next on the agenda, additions or deletions? Tabitha, are you on here?
There aren't any
Nope.
changes to the agenda, Mr. Chair. I'm having trouble finding where I'm sharing my screen, but it's showing the meeting, Amy, and not the screen. Do you have any quick tips for me here? Oh, you're on mute though. Sorry, Mr. Chair.
I can see the agenda.
Yes,
And what are you looking for?
I have the meeting and it's not showing me what I'm sharing.
Yeah,
Okay.
I don't have anything. My screen is blank.
Okay, if you hit, if you go down to the bottom or on the top, will you get a, do you get a toolbar if you hover?
Yep.
And then you should have either that or hit your escape key.
I'm a little afraid it's not going to let me share again, but I can't see it right now, so it's not effective.
Yeah,
This is weird.
if you hit your escape key, it'll get you back so you can see your icons on the bottom and then click on your Teams icon.
Okay, so now I'm not sharing anymore, I take it, correct?
No, I can
Correct.
see.
Let me see if it allows me to share again and if it comes up. Oh,
Okay, I can see
Okay.
it.
yep, I think it's working now. I apologize about that, Mr. Chair.
No problem.
Okay,
Do I get a motion in a second to approve the agenda as written?
So move, Mr. Chair.
So move.
Motion made by Commissioner Blaine, second by Commissioner Wilson. Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
just a reminder. Mr. Chair,
Pardon
just a reminder that all votes need to be roll call in the Zoom meeting.
Yes, thank you for the reminder. I did forget that. Thank you very much. All right, first on the agenda, land services report. Morning, Amy.
Good morning. So I've got one item for you, and this is to consider the interim use permit applied for by Kevin and Lisa Smoody. And this is to establish a home extended business specifically for deboning and cutting of venison during the deer season. This was considered by the Planning Commission at their last meeting, and they recommended approval with 4 conditions. And those conditions are abide by all applicable state and local laws regarding deer processing facilities. Waste from deer processing operations shall be stored in covered leak-proof containers and shall be disposed of at the Morrison County Solid Waste Management Facility by a licensed solid waste hauler or self-hauled on at least a weekly basis, or the services of a rendering company shall be utilized. Disposal shall follow all policies, procedures, and requirements of the Morrison County Solid Waste Management Facility for disposal of carcasses. Any change to how carcasses are handled shall be reported to the Land Services Department. The third condition, the property owner shall-
Mr. Chair, excuse me,
Yeah.
Amy and Deb. It makes no difference because I have the agenda on my other iPad, but my screen is blank and I don't know if the people in TV land can see it or if that's whatever we're doing here.
It's not showing what I'm sharing. Is that what you're saying?
Right. And
I
it makes
can-
no, I'm good because I got it on my other iPad, but I'm just saying,
I've got it.
I can see Deb's screen.
and I
Is it
can't.
condensed for you guys, or can you see the whole thing?
Yep.
I
It's
just
because-
see the word DG. That's all I see is DG.
I can see it, but it's like condensed. I can only see half of the wording.
That's what I'm seeing too.
That's what I'm seeing as well.
I think what I'm going to do is have Tabitha bring it up and share it right now instead, if that works. We're gonna play with this a little bit. It's not working like I wanted to, and it's going away. It went away again. So this is weird how this is happening now today all of a sudden. So Amy, if you want to continue, and I'm gonna figure this out. And if you see the screen come up and go back, we'll work on it.
Yep, so I'll go ahead. So I was going through condition number 3. And condition number 3 was the property owner shall maintain a log of all services related to hide removal, septic tank service and pumping, and carcass disposal at the Morrison County Solid Waste Management Facility. The property owner shall also keep receipts for these services. The log and receipts shall be made available for inspection by the Land Services Department upon request. And then lastly, the interim use permit shall terminate at the time the current property owner, which is Kevin and Lisa Smoody, cease to own the property. So, Mr. Chair, again, this permit was recommended for approval by the Planning Commission. I did share with the board that I received a call after the hearing of someone that had some concern about how carcasses were handled, that they were being burned on site in the outdoor wood boiler, and that the dumpster on site was undersized for the number of deer that were proposed to be processed. So I certainly wanted to bring that forward for discussion. I believe the applicant is also on this meeting. If you have any questions for him, Mr. Chair.
Very good. Thank you, Amy. Gentlemen, or commissioners, could I get a motion and second for discussions?
So moved.
I'll make a
Randy.
motion.
Motion by
Second.
Commissioner Winter, second by Commissioner Wilson. Discussions?
If I may, Mr. Chair, I'll put my hand up too. There you go.
Commissioner Winter.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Again, I don't see Commissioner Smoody, if he's even on or not. Is he on?
I believe.
Yeah, I'm on.
See the 266
Okay,
number?
all right.
Yeah, he's on.
So, and this will
Morning,
be
Mr.
for
Moody.
both.
Got a question
Thank-
from Commissioner Winter.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Okay.
Anyway, we brought this up last week or whatever, the week before, how this application became about. And I'm believing someone had, again, Amy, correct me if I'm wrong, turned them in because he did not have a permit. Could you give me some information on that again, please?
Mr. Chair, this application came about because Mr. Smoody inquired with the
Okay.
county about what he needed to do because he was aware that there needed to be some state permitting and inquired. So we got the ball rolling with him on applying for the interim use permit. But however, between the time that he inquired and applied to the time he went to public hearing, he started processing deer. So that's why we put the stop work order on him, is because he had not secured the permit.
All right, thank you for that. That kind of clarifies that. So he did kind of come to you and inquire about a permit. So my question to Mr. Smoody, we have a few conditions on there that you agreed to. And again, we're not out there as a county or the land services looking for trouble, but apparently we've had a complaint that you were burning deer carcasses. Is that correct?
That's I heard the complaint is that I was doing that, but I was actually putting them in my dumpster and had multiple pickups.
And again, the complaint states that there was a smell. So again, I don't know if the soil and water went out there or land services went out there. That is a concerning of me if that's the case. So you're stating that you were just putting them in a dumpster, as it states as part of your condition, and the complaint states
Yep.
that you were burning them.
Yeah, I was putting them in my dumpster and I had multiple pickups. I know my dumpster was small, but I think I had Piers Sanitation pick it up at least probably 5-6 times probably.
All right, I'm good for now, Commissioner. Thank you.
So to answer his question, Mr. Smoody, you were not burning carcasses, correct?
No, I was not burning carcasses. I was putting them in the dumpster, and I asked Middle Falls Landfill and Piers Sanitation to make sure that was okay, and then they approved that.
Very good. Commissioners? Any other questions for Mr. Smoody? All right, we got a motion and a second. Discussions? All in favor, or it's going to be a roll call? Commissioner Winter?
Aye.
Commissioner Jelinski?
Aye.
Commissioner Blaine?
Aye.
Commissioner Wilson?
Aye.
And myself, aye. Motion carried.
All right,
Thank you,
thank you,
Mr.
Mr.
Smoody.
Yep, thank you,
Thank
Mr.
you.
Chair. That's all I have for you.
Thank you so much, Amy.
Thank you.
Randy, your
Next on the
hand's
agenda.
up yet.
Yeah, Randy. Yeah, thank you, Mike.
Yeah, there we go.
Next on the agenda, Auditor Treasurer's Report. Ms. Chelsea?
Good morning, commissioners.
Good morning.
Come on, Chelsea.
Good morning. This morning, for auditor's report, I don't have anything formal, but I do want to update you that this week have roughly 1,900 late notices for taxes going out this week. So if you have any phone calls, we'll send out late notices this week for the 2020 unpaid taxes. That number of late notices is actually down from years prior. So just to let you know where we're at with this year's tax collection. And then all I have today is a request for board warrants to be approved.
Commissioners?
Mr. Chair, before we I'll make a motion to pay all the bills.
Motion made by Commissioner Jelinski, second by Commissioner Blaine, was it?
That's fine.
Just discussions? This will be a roll call. Commissioner Jelinski?
Aye.
Commissioner Blaine?
Aye.
Commissioner Wilson?
Aye.
Myself, aye. Commissioner Winter?
Aye.
Motion carried.
Mr. Chair, if I may.
Thank you, Chelsea. Commissioner Blaine.
Yes, before Chelsea leaves, I just wanted to ask one question in reference to her comments about the taxes being due. With all of the actions that our governor here in the state of Minnesota has taken because of COVID, there is no deferment or anything like that as far as the due date for people's property tax. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. So everyone needs to be paying their taxes here on time, and COVID will not be a reason not to do that.
It was talked about at the state level, but nothing has went through formally.
Very good.
Ms. Gruber? You have a comment?
You know, Mr. Chair, I just wanted to touch on that because I fielded a couple of calls from different constituents or different members of the public regarding property taxes. Keeping in mind that property taxes aren't linked to income, they're linked to value and sales. And so there isn't a direct correlation with that. However, I don't know that people always understand that. And it would really take, I think, some direction from the state, because clearly even our CRF funds that we received, our CARES dollars that we received weren't to be direct tax, direct tax relief. Yeah, thank you, Chelsea. So it is coming in other forms in terms of the assistance that's there. So I know we've had inquiries, and I know that people are struggling with the fact that property taxes are going to the county. Number one, the county isn't who's making the decisions about shutting businesses down or what the governor has done in terms of curbing the pandemic. And property taxes, again, aren't related directly to income. And so how to correlate that exactly is a little bit difficult, or how that would work out. But at this point in time, we have not been given direction to deviate from how we collect property taxes and what we do with that, and the inability for our CARES Act dollars to directly relieve tax that's due hasn't been given to us. We don't have that opportunity. Does that make sense? Or Chelsea, if you have anything to add, that's kind of how we've approached this.
Do you have any follow-up questions, Commissioner Blaine?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. That does answer my question, and thank you, Deb, for sharing with us that there has been a few calls, but I just wanted to make sure that there's clarity on that because the governor has put a lot of different rules and a lot of relaxation of other things, that we have clarity when it comes to people's responsibility to pay their property tax, and that was my question, and I thank you, Mr. Chair, and Chelsea, thank you.
Thank you. Anything else, Chelsea? Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, next on the agenda, social services report. Ms. Gruber? I think are you muted, Deb?
Sorry, I have to bounce back from scrolling to the meeting. I am, and I think Melanie or Katie, are you going to take this?
Good morning, Mr. Chair, members of the board. It's Melanie Erickson. And yes, Brad has an appointment. He's on his way back. And so he asked that I cover the items. And then Katie is here with me, and together we will do the out-of-home placement board report. I think the first matter that we have, though, in front of us is to ask for approving the director to sign up on the respite grant, a children's mental health respite grant agreement amendment for the state. The original contract went into 2021, and they are adjusting that now so that we will be on I believe it's the state fiscal year, so that it will amend to begin January and end June 30th.
Commissioners? Commissioners, can I get a motion in a second?
This is Commissioner Wilson. I'll make a motion.
Motion made by Commissioner Wilson. Randy, you're muted.
Sorry, second, Randy.
All right, second by
I
Commissioner
apologize,
Wincher.
Mr. Chair, I'm having a hard time with my buttons this morning.
That's all right. I understand. Any discussion? All in favor? Oh,
Is it a roll call?
yeah, it is. Commissioner
We
Blaine.
talked about this at the planning session. That's why I don't have any questions right now.
Yes. Commissioner Blaine?
Yes.
Commissioner Wilson?
Commissioner Blaine
Yep.
votes aye.
Oh,
Aye.
myself, aye. Commissioner Wincher?
Aye.
Commissioner Jelinski?
Aye.
Motion carried. Thank you, Melanie. I see Brad's here with us now.
Hey, Melanie's doing a great job. I'll just let her
Yes, she
continue.
is. Okay, sounds good.
Okay, the
Next on the
next
agenda?
item is a contract for the mental health professional position that we contract for within the county. And this probably was also discussed at planning, I'm sure. Our mental health professional passed away in August, and so we have recruited and asked for RFP for replacement, and have made a selection and ask that we be able to enter into that contract for mental health professional services. The contract is with Angie Barato out of Northland Counseling. We're very impressed with her ability to manage both adult and children's mental health cases, as well as being very, I think, well-versed in managing things through technology, which is what is required right now, but also may be a cost saving for us in the future. She is comfortable doing Zoom meetings and doing that virtually, as well as handling records via electronic records management. So we're asking for approval for this contract.
Commissioners?
Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion.
Motion by Commissioner Blaine,
I'll second it.
second by Commissioner Jelinski. Discussion, Commissioner Wilson.
Yeah, Brad, isn't this somebody that worked for us before?
This is not somebody who has worked for us before.
Okay, I thought that's what that discussion was in the planning. Okay.
Commissioner Winter.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, Melanie or Brad, how did we end up with Angela? There's other mental health services out there. How did we end up with this person or this organization?
Good question, Commissioner Winchell. I'll answer that one, Melanie. We worked with our contract manager for Sourcewell and did an RFP. We sent it to all of our providers that we are aware of through our Adult Mental Health Initiative, which is quite extensive. And we ended up with three individuals who actually submitted proposals. No organization submitted a proposal. And the overall cost of this particular provider was the most reasonable. So we only received three people who were interested in providing that service for our agency. And we're a little unique because in this RFP, we did try to get somebody who would actually come to our office versus us going to an organization, having our staff go over there once a month. So that might have been the hesitancy on some organizations, but that is how we ended up with this person who was willing to come here pre-COVID once a month to do clinical supervision.
Thank you. And Brad, what's for the people out in TV land, what's RFP stand for?
Request for proposal. So it's our way of garnering interest and how much it might cost for particular services.
Thank you.
Commissioner Blaine.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Does this individual, I'm assuming this individual has experience in this field. We are not the training ground for this individual, or can you comment to us on the level of experience of this individual?
Yeah, she has worked in case management, adult mental health case management in the metro area, went on to get her master's, and does have the qualifications to provide this service. And I think when you say, are we the training ground? I think we were the training ground, Commissioner Blaine, when we actually hired our own mental health professionals and worked to get them qualified to be clinical supervisors. We have done it this way. We have not paid for their clinical license. So we would not be the training ground for this person.
Okay, very good.
May I just add to that? She has experience doing this as well in her current agency that she works in. So that also is a benefit for us.
Very good, thank you. Any other discussion? We got a motion and a second. This will be a roll
Mr. Chair,
call.
if I may?
Yes, Commissioner Blaine.
Yes, length of this contract with Ms. Barato to provide this services, is this open-ended, or can we go back there?
It is through December 31st of 2021. It's effective December 1st of this year through December 1st of 2021. And we did talk about her level of commitment, and she is committed. The reason we only went through the end of December is because we know rates could change, or so we only went out through December of 2021.
So Brad, next December, a year from now, we will review this agreement then?
We would not review it if it remains the same, because under our policy, we don't bring it back to board if all of the things remain the same. So if she continues with us, we'll be good to go for a while.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Jelinski.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. If I may, it sounds to me that Social Services has vetted this very well. And for that reason, I will support this.
Very good. Any other discussion? Seeing and hearing none, this will be a roll call. Commissioner Blaine.
Aye.
Commissioner Wilson.
Aye.
Myself, aye. Commissioner Winter.
Aye.
And Commissioner Jelinski.
Aye.
Motion carried. Thank you, Melanie.
Thank you.
The next thing on our social service agenda is an out-of-home placement report. So Melanie and Katie have worked together on developing an out-of-home placement report and permanency report for the kids that we work with. I'm not sure if Katie has made it on yet. She was participating in some.
she's there.
Is she there?
Is there?
Yep.
Perfect. So I'm going to turn over and put together this report.
Good morning again. Katie and I visited, and as we share responsibilities and child placement, we kind of put this report together. I will do the first half and Katie doing the second, as that focuses on her permanency kids and state wards.
Very good.
This first chart just shows us our children in placement, and fairly steady and just up a bit. It seems that placements are continuing to be impacted by a drug use issue in child protection. And then we still have some significant children's mental health issues that we require placement for at this time. This next chart shows us our placement locations, and that is something we track very carefully because it relates to costs, outcomes, and permanency outcomes, and least restrictive, and a lot of things. We just kind of condensed this slide to show that there are relatives that are providing a number of supports to our child protection families, which is very significant. It is a goal for us to have relative care, and we continue to do well in that area. And then we have non-relative foster care, and then our residential placements. And residential placements can include anything from shelter care, group home, or actual residential treatment settings. And so we have grouped those together. You can see that those are the least, and that is our goal because we want to keep kids in our community and keep things least restrictive. One of the things that's assisting with that is the orange on the chart that shows our waiver supported placements, and our use of federal waiver dollars to support children's needs that have significant disability needs and support them in our community has increased, and that allows us to keep them out of residential placements and keep them in a more community-like setting, and even have been able to support relatives with those services recently. So that's a positive move for us for sure. I just thought I'd mention a bit about how county placements are paid for. There are a number of avenues we seek from the federal government, state, and also parental fees to pay for placements. Out-of-home placements often weigh heavily on county tax dollars, but we try to get other sources to support that, to keep families engaged and responsible, and also the feds and state engaged and responsible for this as well. Title 4E is federal funds. The North Star Care supports our foster care only. And then, like I mentioned, waiver supports. We redirect adoption assistance, child support, and also Social Security income, and may also have parental fees attached according to the income of the parents. We can go to the next slide.
Melanie, can I interrupt for 1 second, please?
Sure.
Jeff Jelinski. My question is, there's no set fee if, as an example, I was to accept one of these individuals, and I hate to phrase it that way, but we know what we're talking about. There's no set fee that I am going to get X amount of money a month for from wherever for this person, or is there?
The only thing that's set would be called a base rate in our child foster care, and that's
Okay.
according to the age of the child, and that's set by the state. And then in addition to that, we do what's called a Minnesota Assessment and Parenting and Youth, also called MAPSI. And so that is an assessment that gets at the special needs of the kids, as well as the special services that a foster parent will provide. And so if a child has significant special needs, or let's say the foster parent has to do a lot of appointments or provide a lot of transportation for visitation, and such as that, those kinds of costs, that rate can increase, and that is individualized based on the child and at the time of the service. And it is at least reviewed annually, if not more often.
Very good. That answered that very clearly. So, but at the end of the day, being a foster parent, if you will, for a child, if you will, again, there certainly could be dollars that would come out of my billfold. Correct?
Yes.
Okay, very good.
Yeah.
Thank
Child foster care that is not corporate is considered like a voluntary type service. It is not a business.
Okay, thank you very much. That explained it very clearly.
This next slide just shows the projection, our placement costs of what we've experienced through the years. As you can see, that kind of flows in line a bit with the placement numbers as well.
All right, good morning, members of the board. This is Katie. I will take over from here. Thanks, Melanie.
Good morning, Katie.
So this slide that we're looking at now is looking at the outcomes for the kids that have been in placement for the year of 2020. As you can see, the highest number of children remain in care. And I'm going to talk about that, or I have a comparison slide coming up. But I do think that part of that has to do with the pandemic and the fact that courts were shut down for a large period this year. So our overall adoptions and permanency cases are down a bit this year compared to the last couple. And I do think it was part of the courts not being available. A lot of our hearings have become written submission. And as you can imagine, you know, if there's things that need to be discussed or if parties aren't in agreement, then additional hearings need to be set. So I guess that's my best prediction for why that number is a little bit higher. But you can see that we had 18 kids that returned with their parents this year. We had 6 that were transferred to a non-custodial parent. We had a handful that aged out. And then we had 12 that were terminated and made them state wards and available for adoption. And we do have a couple mother that were in adoption cases all year, and we'll talk about those towards the end of the slide. So this next one, just to clarify, I mentioned state ward. That is a child who is under legal custody of the state. And so that is after a parent's rights have been terminated. And so children who are state wards are available for adoption. And so this just, you know, elicits a little bit what I was talking about, our numbers being down a bit this year. All right. This is a comparison to how much time kids who were adopted spent in foster care prior to rights being terminated. So this is while we're still working with parents. This has been an area that our county has, the state has told us we need to work on these timelines. And part of this, as I've talked in previous meetings, is out of our control because this largely has to do with our court system as well. But you'll see that this year we have greatly improved our time in which kids are in care. That the state tells us that is supposed to be 12 months, that kids are not in care longer than 12 months prior to a permanency action. And so we have decreased that greatly, and you'll see that the majority of our kids fall within that less than 12 months mark. And then this just shows how much time after a termination occurs that children spent in foster care as a state ward. And again, our adoption workers worked very quickly and diligently, and you can see that the majority of the time, the vast majority of kids were under 6 months that their adoptions occurred. And the next group was kind of the 7 to 9 month mark. So still very timely for those adoptions to be occurring. And then, as I mentioned earlier, there's a group of kids, there's those 4 that they were state wards on January 1st of this year, and they continue to be state wards and will be through the end of the year. And then we have one other child that recently became terminated that is a state ward as well. But those 4 in yellow are kids who have serious mental health issues. They have experienced a vast amount of trauma in their lives, not only in their birth homes, but in experiences they've had in their multiple placements. Most of those 4 have had settings where they were hopefully going to be adopted, and then that adoption disrupted. And so these are our most challenging children to find homes for, or to find adoptive homes for, I should say. And they are all in residential settings at this point, or one's a group home, but they aren't in family homes currently. And then the next slide is just talking about who's adopting these children. So as you can see, we're still having more relative placements than non-relative. It's not quite as drastic as it was last year, but we do still find that as the most preferred placement method when we are able to locate safe and willing relatives. We have run into a little bit this year that we have relatives who are willing to care for kids, but they live too far away, or they live out of state, which makes it challenging to place kids with those relatives early on, because we're obligated to work with parents on reunification. But at a point that termination occurs, we can then explore those relatives as a permanent, or be able to adopt those kids now that they are state wards, or once they are state wards. And then this one shows, again, just the final outcomes for 2020 of where we are at. So the majority of our kids achieve permanency through a termination of parental rights. There is a couple that we've done a transfer of custody on to a relative or somebody else that they have a significant relationship to. That's what that kin means. We've had a few kids that have aged out of care, so they were in foster care, they turned 18, and most of those actually we are providing extended foster care services to at this point, which is available until the age of 21. So we provide support services if they are in college or working a job, that they can continue to get foster care money to help support them in their transition to adulthood. And then there were 6 kids who we transferred custody to a non-custodial parent. So we may have taken those kids away from the parent who had custody at the time, and there was a non-custodial parent that was healthy and safe, and so we transferred custody in lieu of having to terminate parental rights. And here on the final slide, I just noted that in addition to all these other numbers we've looked at, there's 25 additional children who we consider to be high risk of becoming a state ward. And how we've defined that is that those are children who've exhausted their entire permanency timeline the year of 2020, but they have not gone to permanency. And there's a couple of reasons that could occur, either because they returned to parents after their time had expired, or their permanency timeline expired, or they've been given additional extensions by the court. So the judge wants to give them more time to see if they can turn things around. And so of those 25 kids, if parents were to find themselves in a situation, again, where they could not safely care for their children, those kids would immediately be placed and we would go to permanency. And then there are 13 other kids that we have filed for permanency on, that we're just awaiting either trial or a settlement or things like that. So there's 13 more kids that likely will become state wards, probably of this month, but early in 2021, I would anticipate. Any questions?
Commissioner Blaine.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I want to ask for the answer to this kind of example. Let's say there is a child or multiple children, and the family here it lives in Morrison County, and the parents are incarcerated because of, we'll say, drug use, and the children obviously have to be taken. They can't be left at home. We'll imagine they're 4 and 6 years old. Because there is a time lag between this incident and the time that the court would make a decision, and or a time lag to find permanent residence for these, and let's say there's no known relatives close, or in the vicinity. What happens? Where do these children go in that span of time that we can rely that they are being handled safely?
So if there are not relatives or other kin that can care for a child, we have licensed foster homes through our agency. And if we cannot find an appropriate match with our agency, either because our homes don't have the capacity to take them, or they're a large sibling group, or due to cultural needs, then there are private agencies that we work with. But in each of those, whether they are licensed through our county, a different county, or a private agency, they all have to pass background checks. They have to go through required training, that covers a variety of things, from installing car seats to shaken baby and understanding SIDS and safe sleeping, and all of that. And so they are all vetted, in a sense, by their respective licensors.
Is it possible, Katie, that those children in a scenario like that could end up leaving Morrison County, at least for a period of time?
Yes. Yep. There are times that we cannot find a home within Morrison County, and so we have to move the children to a foster home outside of our county.
Okay.
Just one more comment about that, Commissioner Blaine, if I might. The other thing that we would do, because they might not want to stay in Morrison County, is that we would look for relatives anywhere in the state, or if we know they're going to be incarcerated for an extended period of time, we would look for relatives that may not be close as well. So, so there are options other than just family foster care here or in another county.
Commissioner Jelinski?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Katie, I have a quick question, and utilizing country school math, 25 and 13 is 38. Really, we have 38 children out there right now that are truly in danger, if you will, of becoming state wards. These are Morrison County children. Can you tell me an age category from 0 to 18? Or higher, or what would it be?
Yep. Currently, we do have our infants all the way up to 17 years old in this category. I would say the majority, though, of our placements really are kids probably, I would say, under the age of 8 is the majority of our placements. We certainly have some older kids, but often we're getting these kids when they're little, right? Because those are the kids who are most at risk. I mean, whether that's, of course, if a parent is using drugs, that's not safe in any situation. But if you have an older child that is less of a safety issue, that has maybe get themselves up for school and has other healthy friends, they're maybe not spending as much time at the home, versus an infant or a toddler who is relying on their parents for absolutely every care.
Fantastic answer. Thank you, Katie. That's all I have, Mr. Chair.
Commissioner Blaine, did you have a follow-up?
I did. Thank you, Mr. Chair. In the scenario where that I kind of drew before, where children are living with parents, the parents are arrested and or incarcerated for, we're going to say, drug use. We know too that from the time that they're arrested till the time their case may come to court, there is a window of time there, and these individuals may be released from incarceration. Do those children then rejoin their parents if those parents are able to leave, let's say, the jail and go back home until their court date? Are the children allowed to reunite with those parents, or do we have, as a county, do we have the authority or ability to step in and say this is not in the child's best interest from a safety perspective?
So it really depends. So we do not place children just because parents go to jail. We want to know what the safety issue is behind the situation. So if both parents were actively using and there was a drug bust in the home and they were both arrested, we would view that that is an unsafe environment for those children. So even if parents bailed out, they would not automatically get their kids back. They would have to demonstrate some initiative to address and their chemical dependency and sobriety as well. And so we would ask them to do things like perhaps a Rule 25 or some chemical dependency treatment. And they would have to demonstrate those things before just the kids returning home.
Okay, very good. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions for Melody or Katie? Hearing none. Thank you, Melanie. Thank you, Katie.
Thanks, Mel. Thanks, Katie.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good day.
You
Bye-bye.
too. Next on the agenda, Brad.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Commissioners, I have one other item under public health, and that is to approve me as appointed as the public health director, being the administrator of the Morrison Todd Wadena Community Health Board. The Community Health Board did approve that appointment on November 18th, and the resolution also requires signature from our board chair, Commissioner Lemire. And so looking for approval for Commissioner Lemire to sign off on me being appointed as the Community Health Board chair.
Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion.
Motion by Commissioner Blaine,
I'll second that.
second by Commissioner Wilson. Discussion?
Mr. Chair, if I may, again, Brad, it states in here, who are we appointing? I know who it is, but could you clarify who we're appointing in this position?
That would be me, Brad Vold, as the current Director of Public Health and Social Services.
Thank you.
Any other questions? This will be a roll call. Commissioner Wilson,
Aye.
myself, aye. Commissioner Winter,
Aye.
Commissioner Jelinski,
Aye.
Commissioner Blaine.
Aye.
Motion carried. Thank you, Brad.
Thank you. That's all I have this morning.
Have a good day.
You too.
Brad, are you
Next on
gonna
the
give me a
agenda.
call when you're done?
Yes, I'm going to send you a link, Commissioner Wilson, for a Teams meeting after bit. All right. You bet. Bye.
Very good. Next on the agenda, Ms. Gruber.
All right, Mr. Chair, I have a number of action items that I'd like to go through. The first is to approve an agreement between Rinky Noonan and Morrison County for legal counsel regarding drainage authority matters. This arrangement currently exists. We pay Rinky Noonan a monthly retainer to be able to utilize their services for drainage questions. As you know, our ditch activity continues to be on a rise. We utilize them, well, fairly often when it comes to different questions that we've had regarding existing drainage issues throughout the county. And so both, well, Steve Bukowski, Chelsea Robinson, Brian Bindorf all reviewed this along with myself, and we all recommend option A, where we pay that retainer so we can, when needed, utilize their services. The agreement that we previously had was just a very brief letter that outlined this proposal, and as Kurt Dieter so eloquently posed it, the young guys in the firm got a hold of it and needed to make it more formal. So anyway, those are his words, not mine, but they did send it over. We did have Brian review it, and we're all comfortable with recommending option A as for approval from you.
Commissioners?
Mr. Chair, I'll move on this.
Motion made by Commissioner Jelinski,
Second, Randy, for more discussion.
second by Commissioner Wincher for further discussions. Commissioner Wincher.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. You know, I kind of briefly, while I went through this, to me, it sounds like this retainer agreement, that does not go against if we're doing an hourly. Again, we're looking at, you know, anywhere from $200 to $300 an hour, but that $200 retainer does not come off the hourly wage. Am I correct?
Yeah, I believe that's typically the case. It's to make sure that they represent us. It's that means that they're our counsel and not anybody else in drainage issues, is kind of a maybe layman's term of it. It assures us that they're our attorney, because we have them on retainer, so that means they can't represent the other side of an issue.
And if we don't do option A, again, I know the recommendations are, but I'm kind of second guessing this. If we don't use them, and again, you mentioned that we're having a lot more drainage issues, I think they're starting to get buttoned up a little bit and we're not having as many. What is the disadvantage of going with option B, using them when we need them?
You know, that's a good question. I think they still would be for hire when we need them, but they could be representing the other side of an issue, and they're a local leader on drainage issues, and I'd always want them on our team and our side because of what they do and where they're at on issues. So that was where we're coming from when it comes to making sure that they're available for us, making sure that they're knowing that they need to be representing Morrison County on all these drainage issues.
And Mr. Chair, you know, again, I looked at this agreement, and personally, again, that's my mistake. I would have liked to talk to Steve Bukowski about this. I know Deb said it's his recommendation, but again, the answer I'm getting from Deb is not quite clearly enough for me. So I would like to table this, if at all possible, until maybe we get a little bit more clarification. But again, I'll go along with the board says.
Mr. Chair, if I could, if you look at proposal option 1, the monthly retainer and hourly services. So the monthly retainer agreement is $200 per month, which does cover simple inquiries and verbal and written opinions. So that allows us to be able to, without getting billed the hourly rate, ask a quick question. Hey, Kurt, you know, we got an upcoming meeting with Todd County. Do we need to go this route? Do we need to have this happen? They do that under that $200 per month versus not having that. Everything goes under an hourly rate, in which what we find, it's a little more, I don't know, prohibitive to be able to ask those quick questions and to be able to have them kind of at a more of a beck and call. Kurt, John Kolb, all of them are very, very good about responding very quickly. We have their cell numbers, and they do that when we have a retainer arrangement. They won't necessarily
respond. It's your situation, Deb.
Just let me finish. Can I finish?
I need to talk.
Commissioner Wincher, can you let Deb finish, please?
Well, again, I have a question, so.
Yeah, I'll get you when she's done. Go ahead, Deb. Who's
kind of lost
phone
my
is that?
train of thought, but it really quick response. It's about that accessibility, and that's why Chelsea, Steve, myself, and Brian are all interested in continuing with that, like we have currently.
Very good.
So my question, Mr.
Commissioner
Chair.
Blank.
Go ahead.
You can finish up, Randy, on your.
Yeah, I just had one last question. Commissioner, or thank you, Mr. Chair. You mentioned Todd County. Are they going to participate, Deb, in this cost? Because again, they have some skin in the game also. And I'm done.
Well, no, because Todd County would have their own retainer or their own arrangement with legal counsel. Todd County was just an example of a drainage question that we had in which we then needed to consult on, or could, because of that ditch that happens to be located in an area that could drain into Todd County. So that was just an example I gave in that.
Is that it, Commissioner Wincher? All right, Commissioner Blaine.
To Deb, the question I have is, you'd mentioned John Kolb's name.
Mm-hmm.
So does this, the approval of this agreement gives us access for those, let's say, incendiary questions, or, you know, the quick question on this or whatever, to both Kurt Dieters and to John Kolb through their firm, or was this agreement through you know, with Rinke Noonan simply with would apply to Kurt Dieters?
Kurt is the primary attorney, and I have that section up right here. But as he indicated, oops, I was just going to circle that, but maybe I'm not as good at that. As indicated, the other drainage authority attorneys that he may work with or assign specific issues are listed, and John is one of them. Kale, Zach, and Gerald
Van Korf.
Mm-hmm.
And so if this agreement with option one, I can see where this would be beneficial, especially if, you know, when we look at the relationship that we have with John Kolb and all the issues up in Commissioner Lemire's district with Lake Chaminade and drainage issues up there, and then also certainly with the number of ditch issues that we're trying to address out in Commissioner Wilson's district out to the east there. I could see where this would be maybe then more beneficial than going on an hourly bill us then.
Thank you, Commissioner Blaine. Any other discussions? I agree with Commissioner Blaine. I think having that access can be very vital at times, and $200 a month that isn't just wasted on the opportunity to, it also is used for the answers and for the questions asked. So I agree with Commissioner Blaine. Commissioner Wilson.
Yeah, I would agree with that too. Maybe when we get all these ditches finished, then there'll be a time that we have a different agreement or something. But right now, I think this is a good way to go.
Very good. Thank you, Commissioner Wilson. Any other discussion? So the motion before us would be to go with option. This would be a roll call. Myself, aye. Commissioner Wincher.
Aye.
Commissioner Zielinski.
Aye.
Commissioner Blaine.
Aye.
Commissioner Wilson.
Aye.
Motion carried. Thanks, Deb. Next.
Next, I have, hold on here, a resolution to approve or to advance the exit of the merit system and adopt the County Personnel Act. Beth had presented this, and Teresa was on the call, and Brad at our last planning session. This has been an effort that's been ongoing. Oh my goodness, I think it was probably over a year ago that you approved that intent to exit merit. And folks have been working since, primarily Beth, along with the assistance, like I said, of Brad and Teresa and Melissa and I, to really put in place and prove to merit that we have in place the various Personnel Act requirements that we need to have in order to operate on our own without the assistance of merit. And that is happening, and that's becoming effective. And we've done the work, a few small things to occur as we advance that, but this essentially says and notifies that we are able to adopt that Personnel Act, and it's a requirement to exit merit.
Gentlemen, could I get a motion and a second for discussions?
Commissioner Wilson, I'll make that motion.
Motion made by Commissioner Wilson. Second by Commissioner Blaine. Is that you with your thumb up? Let me see it. Let me see your thumb. All right, second by Commissioner Blaine. Discussion? We had a lengthy discussion on exiting the merit system, and I believe it's a good thing to at least start moving forward with the attempt to get out of merit. It allows the county to pick their own employees, and instead of sending them to the state and having the state choose the ones that we got that are offered to us, which they could be from all over the state, not really interested in Morrison County. This way we have the power to interview the people that we choose to. Any other discussions? Commissioner Blaine.
I was just going to say, you know, what I gleaned out of our discussion on this at the Planning Commission was that we get to cast our own net when we're going out looking to attract employees, rather than having the state of Minnesota cast a net and then send us all the fish from lakes we don't want.
Exactly. Yep. Ms. Gruber.
Yep. And we are capable, we are qualified, we are equipped to do just that.
Yes. All right, we have a motion and a second. This will be a roll call. Commissioner Wincher.
Aye.
Commissioner Jelinski.
Aye.
Commissioner Blaine.
Aye.
Commissioner Wilson.
Aye.
And myself, aye. Motion carried. Deb?
All right, continue on. The next resolution is to approve the tentative agreement between LELS for 2021 through the end of 2022 deputy contract and extend relevant terms to non-union staff as deemed appropriate. The terms of the agreement really mirror where we are sitting with other bargain employees and non-union staff for the duration of the next 2 years. The tentative agreement really doesn't include a lot of change. The main component, of course, is the cost of living adjustment that's being made in 2021 and 2022. The 2021 cost of living is already budgeted within that and reflective in the budget that you will be approving for 2021. There is an adjustment in the field training officer compensation. Prior to any negotiation term or time period, we do a market study and take a look at some of the specific positions within that unit, and also in general, if we're doing anything. And as you recall, back when we entered into an agreement with the majority of staff, we were starting to creep into a market issue. We had some very low COLAs for a number of years. We had looked at staffing and seeing where we're at when it comes to recruitment, retention, and making sure that we want to really maintain a good market position, not too much, not too low. You want to be just pretty average, and that allows for a good position when it comes to employees. And so, and you also, it allows for no major catch up, like no major adjustments that need to be made if you can really strive to maintain that average. And that's what this contract does. And that's what I'm recommending for approval for moving forward for the next 2 years. And then at the end of 2022, all of our contracts will be due at the same time. And we'll be taking a look again at market and seeing where we lie with it. And I don't anticipate issues at that time. And so I think we'll be sitting in a very good spot moving forward.
Gentlemen, can I get a motion and a second?
So moved.
Motion made by Commissioner Jelinski. Second by,
I'll second it.
thank you, Mike. Thank you. Second by Commissioner Wilson. Discussion. Just to be clear, Deb, like the other language on here, the sick bank stuff, does that all remain the same?
There's slight changes to it. For all intent and purposes, doesn't change the, some of it was redundant or some of it had words in it that didn't need to be in it. One change that they did want to add was a separation benefit. Currently, this is the only bargaining unit that has their separation, so their PTO balances or anything when they separate gets paid out. Every other employee gets paid into healthcare savings plan if it's over 40 hours. That doesn't cost the county anymore. It doesn't change our position in terms of cost, but it allows for a tax advantaged tool for employees in those dollars that separate. So that is one thing that they're adding, but otherwise it's kind of minor date changes and some corrective language that didn't really change the intent of the contract or the meaning of the contract.
All right, thank you. Commissioner Winter.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Deb, just to clarify, you stated that contracts are coming due at the end of 2022. That means all the union contracts will be coming due at the same time?
They are, yep. Yep.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Any other discussion? Commissioner Blaine.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Say, Deb, you said that these numbers put this in line with the other contracts that were settled. Is that correct that the other ones were 3 and 3? Also, I thought we were at a percentage that was less than that for those years, but I may be I don't have my notes on that in front of me here, and I was going to retrieve that, and I kind of gapped that out. But if you can help me there.
Yes, it's right. We did a 3-year contract with the AFSCME units, and that was a 2-3-3. And this is the latter 2 years of that 3-year agreement. So yes.
Okay.
And I just have one other question, Deb. And when it says the non-union employees, which in the sheriff's department are non-union employees?
That pertains to, so we extend benefits if negotiated into non-union staff if appropriate and if applicable. So for example, I don't know that there's anything in this that would apply because I think all of them that would serve as a field training officer are within the bargaining unit, but say there is a position that isn't but yet serves that role, we may choose to extend that FTO compensation to that individual. Or like uniform allowance is one of them that's if the uniform allowance would be a certain amount, we extend that to those that are required to wear the uniform but may not participate or may not be in that bargaining unit. So that's a common one that gets extended elsewhere and makes sense. It's not everything, it's where it makes sense based upon what they do for a job.
Just like we treat all the other non-union employees, correct?
Exactly. So where it's appropriate based upon their role, we want to make sure that we have that equality. And what that does is really creates an appropriate and reasonable approach to how you treat staff, whether they're bargained or not.
Very good. Very good. All right, we have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? Commissioner Jelinski?
Aye.
Commissioner Blaine?
Aye.
Commissioner Wilson?
Aye.
Myself, aye. Commissioner Winter?
Aye.
Motion carried. Deb?
All right. And I just want to note too that whole session, I think we were done in less than a couple of hours. There was a new rep on board. I negotiate those myself. I lead that. We work directly with the unit or department that has the contract, and it went very well. So I just want to let you know that that isn't always the case, and I certainly value and hold those relationships to a high regard because I think it's important because they staff are our greatest asset. They cost us the most, but yet deliver what it is we need to deliver on a daily basis. So I'm pleased that those relationships continue to be positive even with new reps, and moving forward, I don't anticipate an issue either. So it went well is all I wanted to report.
Very good. Thank you on that.
Yes. The next up is an approval for a contract with the Morrison County Public Defender System for service service cases between Scott Wunderlich and Morrison County for the term of January 2021 through December of 2022. This is a contract that comes up on a regular basis. There is a slight increase. I think he said a 3% increase in that. Usually he takes a look at where we're sitting with cost of livings and takes that approach, which I think is reasonable. I did have Brian and I did have Brad review this, and they both are recommending approval to continue with this relationship with Scott.
Commissioners? Could I get a motion and a second, Commissioners?
So moved.
Motion made by Commissioner Jelinski.
Second, Randy.
Thank you, Commissioner Winter. Second by Commissioner Winter. Discussion.
Commissioner,
Yes.
Mr. Chair, question I
Winter.
have for Deb or for some, again, Scott, again, I think he's a great attorney and all that. But again, this previous one that we just did with the ditch, they have their hourly and they have their retainer. And again, this one, I don't see any of that. So why the difference between the two?
Reasonable time.
Yeah, it's a contract that's charged per case. We have to have someone do that. And I think Brad is Brad still on? He'd be better suited to answer that, but I don't know if he's still on.
No, doesn't look like it.
Steve, any chance we pay this out of the fund that works? Do you have more information, or can you speak to it better than I could?
Well, it comes out of the one fund I keep talking about. The costs keep going up. It's where we pay. We also pay the attorneys for other services in the sex offender areas, and it's state mandated that we do this, and this is where we put it. It's in the general fund, and it's been a contract that we've had, and I'm not sure. Like I said, I don't see the time that he puts into it, but I'm thinking it's pretty significant. It's fairly reasonable cost for what he charges us for what he does.
Mr.
And
Chair,
would
the
this
amount
be
is
fair to-
listed.
Would this be fair to say that the language is the same on this as it previously has been, except with the exception of dates and money?
Yes.
Okay. Commissioner Winter, any follow-up?
Yeah, again, that doesn't answer my question. And again, the reason is that the Ricky Noonan has their hourly, has their retainer fee, and Scott doesn't have that. So I was just wondering why the difference.
Mr. Chair, I
There's
have the funds.
compensation.
Yep.
Oh, go ahead, Ms. Gruber.
Yep,
There's
that I was gonna point it out.
Sorry. There's compensation written on this, Randy, yearly and hourly. Do you see it?
No, I don't see it. I don't see the yearly and hourly. I'm looking at it again.
Defendant shall be compensated the sum of $27,250 per
Oh,
year.
Got it. All right,
And
thank
county
you.
attorney shall be paid at a rate of $100 per hour. Got it? Is that good?
Thank you. That answers my question.
Yep. Commissioner Wilson.
Is this, when we talk hourly, is that like an inmate can call him up and discuss things, or can you explain that to me? Or is that us using him?
It's more us using him. So like in a child protection case, kind of what Katie was referring to, those types of cases, it's when he's representing that client. It's not the general public defender work in which he's a state, like where he's defending somebody who's incarcerated or something like that. Brad, thanks for joining. I know that there are some questions regarding Scott's contract and how we utilize him. I don't know if you can give a brief description on what that's for. That would be helpful.
Yes, I can, commissioners. So about 2008 or 9, the state, prior to that, public defenders represented parents in all CHIPS matters, and counties did not have a cost to that. However, when the state had their fiscal challenges, one of the unfunded mandates that came down to counties was counties were now required to pay for public defender costs for parents in CHIPS matters. And so all the counties have contracted with public defenders across the state to provide that service. So if we do a petition because we have concerns about a parent's ability to provide for safety and they're not willing to voluntarily participate in services, we take them to court, and then if they meet income guidelines, they do have eligibility for parent attorney representation, and so we are paying for that now.
I knew he'd do a better job. Thanks, Bradley. Mike, you're muted.
Sorry about that. Any other questions for Brad or Deb? All right, this will be a roll call. Commissioner Blaine,
Aye.
Commissioner Wilson,
Aye.
myself, aye. Commissioner Wincher,
All right,
Commissioner Jelinski,
Aye.
motion carried. Deb?
All right. The next resolution is to set commissioner salaries for 2021. This is a statutory requirement incumbent upon you as a board and needs to be done at the end of the year prior to the outset of the next year. And so at this point in time, the proposal and the recommendation that's being put forth is, again, as we indicated with the other union contracts, apply the same cost of living that all other staff have for the salary of $33,862.40.
Commissioners, motion in a second.
I'll make the motion for more discussion.
Motion made by Commissioner Wincher,
Second.
second by Commissioner Jelinski. Discussion. Commissioner Wincher?
And really, I didn't have any discussion. I just put that in there just to see
Oh,
if somebody else.
very
had.
good.
So,
That's all right.
thank you.
Anything else, gentlemen? Commissioner Blaine?
Well, 3% seems to keep coming up in our discussion today in a lot of in a lot of our contracts and that going forward. And the only thing I'll say in reference to when we look at all of these contracts and all of this compensation and use 3%, that this is a reminder to all of us here that it's really hard to have a 0% levy increase when we keep agreeing to 3% on every contract for service or compensation rate, and we have to remember that as leaders. So it's hard to come back and say when we start the budget process then that we want to have a 0% levy increase when we've committed a 3% COLA to all of our personnel, including ourselves. So just wanting, I know that's probably a real blatant use of stating the obvious, but I just did it.
Any other discussion? As stated in the budget process, I'll be voting no on this. So I'm sure it's no surprise to anybody. Commissioner Wincher?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And this situation, that's why I wanted Deb to clarify, because we always have a hard time, voting ourselves for a raise or for other people. But I'm very enlightened that everything is coming due the end of 2022, whether it's the unions, the non-unions, even the county commissioners. So then we can address this to one whole, broad thing when we do these discussions. Because now, again, if we don't take it or we don't give it to this or that, well, it's because this other union is coming due, they got it. And that's why I'm so happy that in 2022, that everyone's will be coming due at the same time so we can have a further discussion. Moving forward, I'm going to be voting yes for this.
Very good. Any other discussion? Hearing none, this will be a roll call. Commissioner Blaine?
You're muted.
Commissioner Blaine votes no.
Commissioner Wilson?
Aye. Yes.
Myself, no. Commissioner Jelinski?
I'll support this. Aye.
Motion carried. Or, did I get everybody?
You didn't get me, but I'll say
Yep.
aye.
Okay, Commissioner Winter, sorry about that, Commissioner Winter. I didn't mean to jump on you. I thought I was a little less. Motion carried. Next on the agenda?
All right. Next on the agenda is Steve Messerschmidt, who I believe is listening in.
Yes, yes. Good morning, Mr. Chairman.
Welcome, Steve.
I have a few items here today to get your approval for. And the first is to approve the HRA levy for 2021, which is the same as 2020, which is 40,000, which was not on there, but it is 40,000.
We get a motion in a second, gentlemen?
So moved, Mr. Chair.
It appears that you have a hard time getting anybody today, but I heard Commissioner Blaine, I believe. I'll second it.
Yep. Motion made Commissioner Blaine, second by Commissioner Jelinski. Discussion? This be a roll call. Commissioner Wilson.
Aye.
Myself, aye. Commissioner Winter.
Aye.
Commissioner Jelinski.
Aye.
Commissioner Blaine.
Aye.
Motion carried.
All right, the next item I have is to approve the 2021 fee schedule. In your packet, there's the changes. We had the public hearing on December 2nd, and to talk about the changes to the fee schedule, and then I also attached the whole fee schedule for you to review. And I need a motion then to approve the fee schedule. Very
So moved,
minor
Randy.
changes.
Motion made by Commissioner Winter, second by Commissioner Blaine. Discussion? Just wanted to note that we had a public hearing on this and we received no comments. So anything else, gentlemen? This would be a roll call. Commissioner Lemire, aye. Commissioner Winter.
Aye.
Commissioner Jelinski.
Aye.
Commissioner Blaine.
Aye.
Commissioner Wilson. Commissioner Wilson. We must have lost Commissioner Wilson, Deb.
No, we just got
Oh.
him back.
All right, buddy.
I voted yes or whatever that last one, if you
Okay.
caught me.
Commissioner Wilson says aye, motion carried. Next, Steve?
All right, the next item would to be approved. We'll start off with approving the levy for 2021. As you well know, we've met numerous times. This process starts probably for me in April, May, as we move along and talk to departments and others to discuss this. A lot of work goes into it. The department have done a good job this year of trying to maintain a levy where we felt that we could bring to you for approval. So what I have here is a levy of $19,555,336. It's a 2.42% as an increase. And as you well know, as we've talked at prior meetings, there's also other factors that go into, this 2.42 as far as market value and different things like that. And I think with new construction, different things, I think we knew that this was going to be down to that 1.5% level, somewhere in that range. And so I'd like to get that approval.
Deb, levy and budget, you want separate?
Separate, yes.
Okay.
Yep.
Gentlemen, can we get a motion in a second on approving the levy for 2021?
So
Hello?
moved for more discussion.
Commissioner Jelinski?
Second, Randy.
Motion made by Commissioner Jelinski, second by Commissioner Winter. Discussion. Commissioner
Mr.
Jelinski?
Chair? Thank you.
Yes.
Steve, can you explain briefly, if you can, how new construction could or would or does change that 2.42?
Yes. Yes, Commissioner. What it does is that the new construction that's put into the full market value gets spread out. So when you have new construction, it takes that value and it'll spread it out. And depending on where other properties lie and where this new construction is, it'll it'll offset some of the increases that may go on, or it may even decrease. I mean, I know I've heard of some that have seen decreases in their county portion of the levy and or their tax statement, and others that have seen increases because maybe their market value went up. But the market value just gets, the new market value helps because it spreads that value over all the properties in the county.
Okay. But at the end of the day, what we would be approving right now is a 2.42% increase. That's correct.
Correct.
Okay, very good. Thank you.
Any other discussion? I personally would like to just thank the commissioners and Deb and all the staff, Steve and the department heads for the budget process this year. I thought it went really smooth, and when we had our AMC conference, I would like to note that we were one of the lowest. We had one of the lowest levy increases in that particular area. I don't know how many are on there. Deb probably knows the exact number, but we were one of the lowest. And like Commissioner Blaine said, when a great portion, probably 75–80% of the budget is labor, and you have increases to wages and you have increases to insurance policies, you got to take that in consideration. And thanks again to everybody. Ms. Gruber?
Mr. Chair, I was just going to note too that you're correct that we do have one of the lowest in the areas. Certainly there are some that are higher and lower throughout the state. But last year, I know we had one of the lowest throughout the state, if not the lowest. I just very much value both you as a board and the direction you provide to really be conservative and to really make sure that if we are asking for increases in things like wages or increases in budgets for equipment or increases in anything, that we have justification and reason behind it. And we do that, and your leaders here do that. And I appreciate the fact that you hold us to that standard. If there are increases built in, there is a reason for it, and it's not, it's because of core needs of the organization or core data that supports it for reasons that will keep budgets low and not have a great ebb and flow of dollars that are needed throughout the years, and to keep a steady, consistent approach at what we do here. And so I value that, and I value what you guys bring to the table, because I think your leadership steps up in response to it.
Thank you, Deb. Commissioner Blaine.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And I just want to take a second to personally thank Steve Messerschmidt for all he has done for us as a board, and the work that he does. And this starts way back in the, early summer. Well, for him, it'll start again January 1, but the amount of information that he provides to us to help us in that decision-making process that the public does not understand, but the five of us do, and we probably don't take the appropriate time to thank him publicly for all that he does. And I think we all sit on different boards that have to look at different budgeting processes. And I think with my experience on this board here after 2 years, I think it's important that we never undervalue the impact of Steve Messerschmidt's work that helps us get to that point where we're making these decisions about levy, about budget, and with the clarity and the amount of information that he gives us. And so for me, I want to make sure that we say thank you in the correct way here. So thank you, Mr.
Thank you, Commissioner Blaine. That was a big thank you to you, Steve Messerschmidt.
Well, I thank him, but there's a lot of work that goes into this. That's also all the county department heads and their staff that put a lot of time and effort and helped me a lot to get this process going. There's a lot of work on their part as well. So.
And he's humble. That's a great thing. Thanks, Steve.
Yep.
Commissioner Winter, do you have something to say? No? Okay. All right. Any other discussion? We have a motion and a second. This will be a roll call. Commissioner Winter.
Aye.
Commissioner Jelinski,
Aye.
Commissioner Blaine,
Aye.
Commissioner Wilson,
Aye.
myself, aye. Motion carries. Next up before us would be,
It'll be the budget. The
the
final was
budget.
approved the budget of 54,407,763, which is an 8.1% increase. But as you can see, that our budget fluctuates quite a bit. This year's fluctuation is mostly in the road and bridge. There's a pretty heavy road construction year in 2021, because you can see it went from 13.8 to 17.1. The previous year we saw the solid waste fund go up. That was 4.4, went down to 3.5 because there was a cell build. So those types of fluctuations in the budget tend to happen more. That doesn't mean the levy is going to go up any more or less. It's just that's how things work.
So yeah, it's a $4 million increase from 2021 for construction projects.
That's pretty much most of the budget increases due to that, yes.
Very good. Could I get a motion and a second to approve the budget?
So move, Mr. Chair.
Motion made by Commissioner Blaine,
Second.
second by Commissioner Wilson. Discussion, Commissioner Wilson.
Yeah, and just because the budget went up $4 million, that doesn't mean it comes all out of local taxpayers, right? On that road and bridge, most of that money probably come from the state or federal government. Am I correct on that?
Yes. And there was also some carryover of the transportation tax that was feeding into that also.
Right, I knew that. I just wanted people to understand that.
Yes.
Yep, Mr.
Good
Chair,
point,
that
Mike.
property tax levy impact is that 2.42. That's what locally is increasing from the year prior. But you're right, much of our budget comes from state and federal dollars that makes up the rest of the difference.
Very good. Any other discussion? This will be a roll call. Commissioner Jelinski,
Aye.
Commissioner Blaine,
Aye.
Commissioner Wilson,
Aye.
myself, aye. Commissioner Winter.
Aye.
Motion carried.
All right, well, that's all I have. Thank you very much.
Thank you,
Steve.
Steve. Deb, you got anything?
Well, I am going to just unshare my screen here and give you just a couple brief updates. Yesterday we had the virtual AMC conference, and I know some of you participated, and we participated here. I did invite those that played a major part in the award that we won, the County Achievement Award. It was for our work on the produce delivery drop. So we won a County Achievement Award for 2020 from AMC, and I wanted to show you guys and let you know, but we have that here, and Tabitha played a big part in making sure folks were communicated with and organized volunteers. Brad Bolton did a ton of work with the GIS, as you remember, the mapping. Sarah Pratt, the supervisor in Public Health Social Services, really helped coordinate the efforts along with Carmen Genski, who really spearheaded all of that. Brad Bold had a major leadership part. I helped a little where they let me, but we had good success. I'll be putting that out on the intranet, and we took a photo all spread out here in the boardroom quick and shared that success together, and it was very nice. They worked hard. I'm proud of it because it was a very real response during a tough time. And so not only did we help the public, and we served, and I didn't have the statistics right in front of me, but I have it in the award, a tremendous amount of food to the doorsteps of a number of individuals and households in Morrison County, but it really brought staff together. And the feedback that we got from staff was fantastic, from the public was fantastic. It was a really good team building exercise, and really crossed paths of employees crossed paths with each other that they normally don't get to cross paths with. And the value of that is really intangible. And so thanks for supporting that. I said that when we did that, but I truly mean it. And I appreciate AMC's recognition of that work that was done here, because I think, I certainly am proud of it, and it's good to see it recognized across the state. So that was fun. It was nice. And other than that, continue to forge ahead. Very curious in the next weeks what the results will be from both the state of Minnesota and federal government when it comes to COVID response and CARES dollars, whether or not that's going to get extended, whether the CARES Act time for staff and all of those parameters that we're applying, whether that will get extended beyond the new year. Much of it is to be sunsetted at the end of the year, but we clearly know COVID's not going to sunset at the end of the year. So what's going to be coming forward is yet to be determined, but very of huge interest in our office. I know Steve and I have talked briefly about what to do if and when it sounds like other business aids will be coming from the state, whether the county's involved directly or whether we're kind of a side participant in that distribution. I don't know what that's going to look like yet. As I mentioned earlier, I am on a small committee with AMC with a few other administrators offering advice where we can when it comes to, if it looks like this, what would you respond with in those types of scenarios? And so more to come on that. And I'm sure it'll be a tight turnaround again, and I'm sure it'll be something that we need to buckle down and respond to quickly. So I'll let you know when I know more. Mr. Chair, anything else for me? Anybody have anything that they're waiting on or looking for or have questions on?
We'll go with Steve. Oh no,
Very
that
good.
doesn't, you don't want nothing. We'll go Randy. It pops up on my screen when someone raises their hand. Commissioner Winter.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm going to kind of blindside the board, maybe not. You know, and Deb brought up a good point, this COVID. What is in future for, you know, the future of our, basically our school children? You know, again, I've had businesses call me, talk to me about the COVID. I'm hoping there's going to be some relief coming, you know, to the businesses. But in my last few months and even in my campaign, I am so passionate about leaving the schools open. And I've been doing, you know, quite a bit of research on this. Where's the science? Where's the science? There's not much science to leave businesses closed or whatever. It's always speculation. But there is science right now coming aboard for kids, at least from kindergarten through third grade, that we keep these schools open. They are less susceptible to this disease. And again, we're always going to have people out there that are going to abuse maybe go to their grandpa and grandmas and they're infected or whatever. But that's even very sly as far as, or not sly, but it's a very low percentage of people getting COVID, and not if they do get COVID, you know, from them dying or whatever. And again, I am so passionate that we get a hold of our governor and tell him that let's get at least these kids every day going to school from kindergarten to third. I talk to teachers, I talk to administrators. And again, you hear on the news and whatever, may or may not believe, these teachers want these kids in school. Again, yes, there might be some, there's always a percentage. I always say, you know, if you don't wear your seatbelt, yeah, you could get killed. Could have, would have, should have. But we're looking at our future children that are going to be watching this country, and they're sliding through the cracks. Suicide is up. There's 11-year-old just committed suicide. Kids are dropping out. This is, on the bottom line, it's stupid that we do not have these kids, at least from kindergarten to third grade, open. And I'm very, on these resolutions, you know, I take them, you know, very strongly when we do a resolution, and I'm going to ask the board, and maybe we can get something to do, some type of resolution to keep these kids in school. And I'll leave that at that comment. Maybe we can bring it up at the next planning. But again, this is me on this one. And I don't know if you have any children and that young, but I have grandchildren, and I see this, and it's just, it's sad. And I'll leave it at that.
Thank you, Commissioner Winter. Commissioner Blaine. Are you, you're muted, Greg.
Sorry about that. I'm going to switch gears a little bit, but I want to say I love Commissioner Wincher's passion for the children out there too. But what I wanted to mention was, you know, one of the things that I thought was or one of the indicators that's extremely important for us as a county board and as leaders, especially when we've just spent a lot of time this morning talking about fiscal issues, and that's the state budget forecast that came out, which the November forecast, and Mr. Chair, you know this too from being in the legislature also, that there's two dates that are always kind of heralded that we really keep an eye on. That's the November forecast and the February forecast. And much to a lot of people's surprise, what I would say was probably an improved position fiscally for the state of Minnesota, where I think a lot of people were probably expecting a $5 or $6 billion deficit, and it is highly improved over that. And we obviously had talked a lot during the budget process and the levy process on what could happen, what the effects of COVID would be economically in the state, and how that would be translated down to what the state of Minnesota would do as far as their responsibility in funding local government. And that, with all that being said, I will say that we will and we should proceed cautiously in the fact that things can change and the numbers can change by the time we get to the February forecast. But it is the November numbers are surprising in a positive way, but I don't think we should take too much rest in that, in how we plan going forward. And that's my comments, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Blank. Commissioner Wilson.
Yes, I'd just like to share